This is the Ragin Cajun podcast. I'm Kevin Wilson alongside Director of Athletics for the University of Louisiana, the Ragin Cajuns, Director Bryan Maggard. How are you?
I'm good. Interesting times.
I know you're busy. Let's start off going back through your past week. We were in the middle, Sun Belt Conference Tournament, women's basketball, playing Little Rock. Won that basketball game, but during it, we got a notification the NBA has just shut down all operations. Starting from that point, how's the rest of your week been? Has this just been a downward, ton of news coming through?
Turbulence is a good word to put it. When that news came out, Kevin, I quickly texted the Commissioner Keith Gill with the Sun Belt and said, what does this mean? Knowing that our tournament was going to be held in an NBA facility. And at that time, he got back to me right away and thought we'd still be good to be able to compete, but we may have to limit fan attendance.
And then it got even darker, where, wait a minute, we're not just getting rid of fans.
Right.
We're shutting down everything.
Right.
And we saw some major conferences making moves, teams like Kansas and Duke saying we're shutting down everything. But it seemed like you kind of took a wait-and-see approach. Was that more you, or was that more of the Sun Belt?
It's more of the Sun Belt. We had an established conference call last Thursday at 10 a.m. for the athletics directors, and really that was to discuss the basketball tournament in New Orleans, and to talk about the limited attendance aspect and not the cancellation. And it was during that call that our phone started to blow up with all these breaking news announcements that conferences were halting and or stopping their tournaments midstream. And so when that started to fall that quickly, we made the decision right there to cancel ours. And then at 3 o'clock, we were supposed to get on the phone with the presidents and discuss spring sport activity moving forward, thinking that we'd at least be able to compete, but maybe have to limit fan attendance at those as well. On that same call, probably an hour into it, more breaking news alerts that conferences were suspending all spring sport competition.
You're leading an entire department of athletics. Sure, you're getting all this updated news, but in the back of your mind, it's got to be, okay, what am I going to tell my people that I see every day? Yeah,
communication is obviously, one of the most critical things you can do in a time of crisis, right? And so, you immediately start to think, okay, who am I going to communicate? How am I going to communicate? And what am I going to communicate? Because you don't really want to start getting out there until you have all the information. So, but with the advent of social media today, right? Your staff and your coaches are getting that information almost simultaneously. Like we were from a community global standpoint. So, I communicated with those groups, being the head coaches and our senior leadership team, as immediate as I could, letting them know that the basketball tournament was going to be canceled. That was a personal phone call between me and Gary Broadhead. And then had to communicate with the rest of our head coaches and senior leadership team that we could be considering canceling spring competition.
Your women's basketball team, led by head coach Gary Broadhead, 7 wins last season. They were just about to play number 1 Troy to continue to advance in the Sun Belt Conference Tournament. University of Louisiana softball, number 1 in the country in RPI, really killing it. Your baseball team had just won 6 of their last 7 games, started to find that groove. You had to talk to these head coaches, had meetings with head coaches. You're seeing the effects it had on student athletes. It's kind of a shoot the messenger type of deal in a lot of cases. How did you handle that? How did you go about that process?
Well, certainly, you try to do as much of that either face-to-face or over the phone as you can, but sometimes by just virtue of the speed of the information, you have to rely on group messaging and things of that nature. But, again, it is what it is, and to be really candid, again, with social media and its prevalence, our coaches had a really good idea before I could even get to them, right? But that doesn't necessarily minimize the shock and the hurt, that they were experiencing. But again, they're great leaders. They're strong men. They're strong women, and they handled it like champions. But you could tell they were hurt and disappointed. I think their mind shift went directly to their student athletes, and how do we tell them, and how do we be there for them, and console them, but at the same time, keep them encouraged to the best of our ability.
Who do you think took it tougher, the student athletes or the coaches?
That's a good question. I'm not sure. I know, our spring sport coaches took it hard. They really did. I was not present at the team meetings because I was still involved with conference calls with presidents and ADs, but I know our student athletes did take it hard, extremely disappointed. It's that initial shock that your year's taken away from you, and particularly as the seniors, they were taking it hard. And for the reasons you mentioned, Kevin, I think different teams had different levels of hurt because of what the opportunities were ahead of them. But I know our coaches took it hard, but again, they were champions and they were professionals and they were, strong leaders in that sense, but because they knew they had to be strong for the student athletes. So again, long answer to your question is I think both groups took it very hard.
We're extremely early in this process,
Yes.
and I think a lot of people are just now starting to grasp that. Where are we at for the senior athlete, the senior softball, baseball player, track athlete? Where are we at for their potential future?
I think for all of our spring sports student athletes, there's a high level of confidence that an extra year of eligibility will be given to them, right? Should they want to take advantage of it. Not all will. Not all will. But now the challenge shifts from that decision to, okay, how do we pay for that? Because each institution will be responsible for those additional scholarship costs that you're maintaining, with new freshmen coming in, and so, or new class coming in. So we've got to work through all that still, and we certainly will. I mean, if our young men and women want that extra year, we're going to find a way to make it work. And some of them may do that somewhere else. That's just a reality. When we talk nationwide, you may see students, entering the portal and going to a different school to take advantage of that extra year of eligibility. But regardless, the opportunity is going to be presented to them. I firmly believe that. It's just we've got to find ways financially to accommodate that, and that will be a strain on every athletic department in America.
And just to be clear for the listener or viewer, where are we at literally? So everything is canceled, practice is canceled. Where are we at legitimately through this thing?
So legitimately, the Sun Belt came out in all spring sport activities to include spring practices for football, as an example, are canceled. We've left suspension and moved to cancellation, knowing that for the entire term and through the championship seasons, everything is done. From a organized activity standpoint, the same thing, right? So no team meetings, no position meetings, no workouts, no training, that kind of thing. So everything is at a complete stop right now.
So they cannot enter locker rooms, can't
Correct.
lift weights, nothing.
Yep. Yeah, that by the Sun Belt, that was left up to each institution, right? That Sun Belt conference wasn't going to say, all right, Louisiana, you have to lock your facilities down. That's a campus by campus call. And what our philosophy on this campus is that, once the campus rec center shut down, we knew that we were going to shut our facilities down from a training standpoint, weight room, meeting rooms, track, all that kind of stuff, right? And so once we did that, that really came into effect yesterday, is what I would tell you.
And due to the coronavirus, we've also seen the academic side make some adjustments as well. So students are it's all remote learning.
Yeah, huge adjustment on that side. And from the campus level even to our academic support staff. And Christy Alford and her team have done a phenomenal job. They've made, maybe one of the hardest working groups right now within our department, as they've spent the whole weekend finding ways to transition from face-to-face service provision to remote service providing, be it tutoring, mentoring, advising, class monitoring, all that kind of stuff. So, but kudos to our campus leadership. They've done a fantastic job in shifting all that from a learning standpoint to online, and we've certainly followed suit with that. But again, a new normal is ahead of us.
Yeah, still brand new. What are you in thoughts for your day-to-day staff that's in the building? I know we've got the student athletes free, but as far as our day-to-day workers, business office, marketing, ACOM team, trainers, what are they doing?
Well, for now, from a staffing standpoint, it is business as usual as much as we can, right? Our activities may change. I mean, you may have people getting their offices organized, looking ahead even at the fall and things of that nature, getting things cleaned up from the spring, so to speak. But we will follow university guidelines and protocols as it relates to reporting to work. And as long as campus is telling us that staff is to report to work, we'll do that. But once we, potentially transition to telecommuting, then it'll be determined by campus and driven down by campus, who might qualify for that and who doesn't.
What are your expectations for staff members? Because obviously, since your tenure, now in your third year, congratulations.
Thank you.
There's been a lot of growth, a lot of hires, especially on staff that pertains directly to game, event management. Right. What are your expectations from that sort of staff that kind of relies on games to grow?
Right. You know, I still maintain my overall philosophy on that, and you know, for all staff members, manage your time, do your job. The job responsibilities may change, you know, somewhat, but there's always things we can be doing, right? Whether it's, you know, the behind the scenes, whether it's getting facilities cleaned up, getting facilities straightened up. You know, everybody over the last 72 hours at least have been just so caught up in all the changes and the turbulence that we've encountered. So really, you know, today, even though we transitioned as a campus to online instruction, today's like one of those days where you kind of start to feel the dust settling a little bit into this new normal, although I'm not convinced that we won't experience some additional changes from a campus standpoint. But, you know, it is just, you know, get the house in order, you know, get your areas straightened up. Like, for example, on our external staff, they're still producing content that we can push out, right? Because again, the social platforms don't die. We're going to still communicate with our fan bases through those platforms the best we can. From an event standpoint, you know, John Duga and his crew, you know, they'll spend time, again, just getting things straightened up and cleaned up from what we did experience in the spring to start to think ahead about next fall and the fall sports and things of that magnitude. So there's always things you can find to do, and you know, one of it's going to be organization, but you think about how can I get ahead to the best we can.
All right, and should there be, though, with no games in place, no visible monies coming in, is there any cloud of concern that should be had with job security?
No, I don't think we're that's in that realm at all right now, but where the finances come in, and it's where, you know, concerns are at nationally, right? But it's us as well as, you know, the impact to revenues that we're going to incur, you know, from the shutdown, so to speak. So, you know, we've got two sports, unlike a lot of programs in baseball and softball, that we rely heavily, you know, on that revenue, both from an operating standpoint, but also from a debt service standpoint, right? Monies that, you know, are generated through the stadium club and suite leases and loge box leases, et cetera. All those revenues go to pay debt service, you know, for that mortgage at Russo Park. And so we've got to work through all that. You've got the season ticket component of it from either a refund, or if people want to get that, you know, we can make that an option. And then, you know, globally, the NC2A has taken a big hit financially with the cancellation of the basketball tournament. So we're anticipating that our NC2A distributions will be either minimized or gone altogether this year. And then obviously, with this addition of another year of eligibility, again, that's going to be additional scholarship costs that we're going to have to come up with. So it's a major focus, you know, for us right now, and certainly at a global level from athletic departments, you know, nationally.
Once again, this is really early in the process, but if this virus continues to stay strong or continues to force us to be more quarantined even into the June, July, August months, has there been any talk of a game plan into the football season?
You know, those talks, so I just got off of a national conference call before I came in here, and yeah, that topic is starting to be talked about, right? It's pure speculation right now, but a big question right now is how do we approach return to play in the safest manner and healthiest manner possible for our student athletes. You know, if our student athletes have to go home, right, and there's no training, organized training allowed, and in some communities we know public gyms are closed down, right? So, you know, other than going outside and, you know, running and, you know, the push-ups and set-ups and pull-ups, you know, that's still not the level of training our student athletes are going to need to be prepared to come back. So, yeah, we'll probably have to rely on medical professionals, right, to establish some guidance and guidelines on what that return to play will need to look like, because again, the ultimate goal or the ultimate objective will be the safety of the student athletes. And so, again, all speculation right now, but I think people are starting to grasp that, you know, this could be a 4-month issue, if not longer, right? I mean, this could take us into July, it could take us into August. We're certainly hoping and praying it doesn't, but as time gets deeper into that, we are going to have to be prepared.
You are human. How concerned are you about this?
You know, I don't know if concern is the right word, but I do think as a society we need to be smart about it, right? Whether you believe, as a nation we've overreacted or not, right? I don't think that matters anymore. I think now everybody needs to be at the point where practice good judgment, right? Take good care of yourself, be mindful of others, and follow the guidelines that are out there. Be respectful of social distancing. Don't put yourself in situations where there are a lot of people. Don't, wash your hands, good hygiene, things of that nature. So it's not something I lose sleep over by any means, but I'm very mindful of it. And I'm respectful, of both the virus itself, right, but also what health professionals and leaders at the national and state and local levels are deciding to do to help us minimize this curve of spreading.
You made a decision roughly 3 years ago where you said, hey, I would love this opportunity to be the athletic director for the University of Louisiana. Through this time, you've unfortunately been through multiple deaths in our Ragin Cajun family, multiple coaching searches, now a virus that's shutting down the country. Is this what you signed up for?
I did not anticipate, some of this, right? Certainly I think the personnel changes are a part of the job. If you don't go into it knowing that could happen, then you're probably walking in it blindly. But when you talk about loss of staff members, right? When you talk about having to help lead, right? I mean, there's a lot of people in our organization and our campus that are leading us through this. It's not me by any means. But when you're talking about having to help lead a department through, something like this virus, those things you don't normally think about. And so what I wouldn't change it for anything. Obviously I wish those events wouldn't have happened, right? But there's no doubt that whether it's myself or our entire department, I think we're stronger from it. We're closer as a result of it, and hopefully, like through this one, we'll all be a little bit more wiser. And so, it's been challenging to say the least. But at the same time, I'm blessed to be surrounded by a lot of great people, and not just within our department, but on our campus. And so that certainly helps you get through tough times.
Speaking of great people, there was a gentleman that you fought very hard to keep on campus, and he's still here. That's our head football coach, Billy Napier.
There you go.
His name was on fire this right before our bowl game. Unfortunately, we had to wait nearly 2 months to play our bowl game, so it just kept spiraling. He couldn't catch a break. But why were you so aggressive in making sure that Billy Napier stayed right here?
Well, for me, I know the type of CEO and leader he is off the football field. I mean, obviously, he's a great football coach. I mean, our records speak to themselves. He's obviously somebody who knows how to surround himself with quality people from a staff standpoint, and he has shown to us that he can recruit at a high level, right? But it's more about Billy Napier, the man, Billy Napier, the leader, that really drives me, and that's what, I probably put more value on that than I do anything else, because I know that he knows how to run a high-level football program. And so I appreciate, people telling me that, how did you keep him here? Well, in all honesty, Billy made a decision to stay here. And I think that does bode well for all of us, right? It speaks volumes that he and his family, they love Lafayette, Louisiana. Billy Napier loves this university and our athletics department. So all those things work together, and I think keeping the Napier family, put. But, might the time come that he has to say yes to something? Yeah, it will, because he's that good. But, I'm very grateful that he and his family have chosen to stay here. Again, I would love to get UL to be a destination location. What really drives that, as you know, Kevin, is compensation, right? Or it helps. It's not the only thing. But, and so, I think we'll always be susceptible to losing, quality people when Power 5 schools who can triple, quadruple salaries, come calling. But Coach Napier has a set of values, and it's not financial driven. That's a good thing. And so I think as long as he feels like he's well supported here, that we have a community that's going to rally around our football program. We have a university that is supportive of football, and certainly an athletics department that will do everything it can to see that program is successful. I think we have a really good chance of keeping him as our head football coach.
One thing he's dealing with, and every coach in the country, is a recruiting freeze in a sense.
Yeah.
How does that work? Is it just it's going to pick up via phone, or what, or is everything just frozen until this thing gets?
Well, we're officially in what's called a normal dead period, but during the dead periods, coaches can talk to via phone and text messaging juniors and seniors. So our coaches can continue to talk to students in those grades, but you can do that so much, right? What they're really missing is getting out to the high schools and to the homes and talking with the kids face to face and their families and things like that. So, that's certainly put a hamper, if you will, on the whole recruiting process. But, it's something that everybody in America is dealing with. So it's not there's no competitive disadvantage, to one school.
You can only get the DM so much.
That's right. That's exactly right.
So much. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I go back to, we have a phenomenal university leadership right now that has, in my opinion, done a remarkable job in transitioning this university to where we are today, right? Knowing that we've got a ways to go still. I mean, I believe there's more changes to come, right? Whether it be more of the telecommuting and things like that. But, and then I work with amazing people in this department, right? I appreciate accolades I get about, you're doing a great job leading, the department through this. I rely on a lot of people to help me lead. So anything that I do that looks good from a leadership standpoint is really a credit to people like yourself, who's on our senior leadership team, and people like our head coaches who really, are the ones who are leading our student athletes through this. So I'm good, but every day is a new day, and it seems like as soon as we make a plan for the day, get ready, because something's going to change tomorrow.
Right. Last time we spoke on one of the earlier versions of the Ragin Cajuns podcast, you revealed that you once had cancer, recovered, and your wife Carrie is still doing great through that process right now. But obviously there is concern with the coronavirus, slightly weaker immune systems after cancer. What's been the conversation been like with doctors, your wife, and how you guys are moving forward?
Well, the good news is Carrie's treatment has been successful to date, right? And we anticipate it to be, long-term success. And she gets her, every 6-month checkups and things of that nature. As a matter of fact, as of today, Wednesday morning, she had her 6-month MRI scan, so we're waiting on the results of that. But, when this thing started to pick up speed, she and I immediately talked about, her immune system. Do we need to be concerned? And we read the literature on the medicine that she's on, and it does not impact immune systems at all. We talked to her doctors about that, so we feel very good about that. And I'll tell you what, she's right now as strong and as healthy as anybody I know, and so to that point, we feel like we're in really good shape and not in a category of being at risk as a result of what she went through.
Now, I know you're a guy who usually doesn't stop. You keep going, keep going. In fact, you're setting up a meeting for tomorrow morning. Is there ever a point where you're going to say, okay, let's do this thing remotely?
Yeah, again, that'll be a
conference.
campus-driven decision, right? So until we hear from the university, right, that from an HR standpoint, we need to be doing things from a virtual or remote standpoint, we'll continue to show up to work. Now, we've got to exercise flexibility with people, right? We've got single parents who work here whose kids are out of school, right? We've got married people whose kids are out of school, but they're both working, all right? So that's a challenge from a child care standpoint. We have employees who may be deemed as being in the at-risk category, from contracting this virus. We got to be mindful and flexible with that. So, but ultimately, as a blanket statement, I would tell you that until campus comes out, and sets some direct policies and guidelines, about telecommuting, we'll continue to show up here and have our meetings. But there's a fine balance. I mean, I think during these times, it's very hard to force somebody who has a really discomfort, about coming around people. Right. But I go back to that first question. Practice good judgment, right? social distancing is key. If and when you're in meetings, have some separation. Wash your hands a lot.
You gotta
Stuff
wash your
like
hands,
that.
man.
You should be doing that anyway, right?
Yeah, well, son in Tennessee?
Got a son in Nashville who I think may be coming down tomorrow.
Oh.
Being Thursday of this week.
Okay.
His career right now is made up of some different part-time opportunities, and so he has flexibility. He could come down here, and then our daughter who lives in Kansas City, her job is still a go, so they haven't been told to work from home. So until that were to happen, she's staying put in Kansas City. And then our daughter from New York, really prior to this thing kicking in, she's at the Juilliard School, and they had they get a 2-week spring break. And so week 1, she did some traveling out in California, some job search type things. And then when she got back here for week 2, that's when things really started to pick up, and she got an email saying, stay home for 2 more weeks. And then within a few days, that turned into semesters canceled. So she's home for the semester, and has been with us, and that's been fun. We've enjoyed that. So we'll see if the other 2, get down here or not. But as of now, they're staying put. They're doing well. And
you plan on trapping them in the house? They come down, you trap them in the house,
absolutely.
quarantine,
Absolutely.
keep family around.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it's real out
It'll
there.
be we'll take advantage of that, and we'll make it fun.
Yeah. Dr. Maggard, I appreciate the time. I know you're back and forth all over the place, but I appreciate you being so open and honest during this thing, as this thing is as you like to say, a very fluid situation.
Fluid's a key word, and again, I just want to go back and I want to say thank you, to Cajun Nation. It's a fan base that I know is very disappointed. We talk about the disappointment of our student athletes and coaches and staff, but I would have to rate the disappointment of our fan base right up there with anybody, because I really felt like the spring sport opportunities were going to be a chance for people to kind of, just regather, regroup, and really celebrate, after such a tumultuous time that we had, from last summer through the fall, with the loss of so many staff members. But it's disappointing that we can't continue, but it is what it is, and we'll move forward. We'll be okay. But I would like to thank Cajun Nation, for both their patience, their understanding, and their support. It's been a very supportive fan base that I think ultimately understands why we had to do what we had to do, right? And again, it wasn't just us. This is a national pandemic, excuse me.
Right.
And so, again, thank you to Cajun Nation, for everything that you have done for us, what you continue to do for us, right, during these tough times, but also what you'll do for us moving forward.
While you're talking to them, can you tell them to stop buying up all the toilet paper? If you could look into it on the camera, just tell them to stop buying it. It's getting ridiculous.
Cajun Nation, be patient. I think we're going to be okay.
You didn't mention the toilet paper. All right, thank you so much, Dr.
Thank you, sir.
Special thanks to our sponsor for the Ragin Cajuns podcast.
It's out of here.
Lafayette Roofing, official partners of the Ragin Cajuns. And like the Ragin Cajuns, you'll always hit a home run with Lafayette Roofing. Lafayette Roofing is your home team for any of your roofing or home improvement needs. So don't strike out calling one of the other guys. Call your local partner at Lafayette Roofing. Dial 237-ROOF. That's 237-ROOF. Call 237-7663 for Lafayette Roofing.